Welcome to UK Business Show, UK's premier business show where we feature business thought leaders, high achievers, and industry experts. Today's episode is brought to you by World Outsourcing Solutions Limited, a company that specializes in helping executive business owners with virtual assistant services and business growth systems. Here's your host.
Hi everyone and welcome to the show again. So I'm Trevor Stockwell and I have with my co-host today with me, Yorkai. Welcome, Yorkai.
Thanks, Trevor. So excited to be here and truly honored that we have Rohan joining us here. As you know, we love bringing experts who are killing it out there, and Rohan is one of those ones. And Rohan, thanks for joining us.
Thank you both so much for having me.
Oh, you're welcome, Rohan. So let me just give the listeners a little bit of background before we jump into the questions. So Rohan, you're a CEO, you're a co-founder of Quillbot, which is a site which uses AI technology to serve millions of users every month. And you've got to that point within 3 years, which I think is amazing and phenomenal. We'll find out how shortly. We'll dig into some of the other bits first before we get to that. But yeah, without further ado, welcome Rohan Gupta.
Thank you so much.
It's great to have you with us. So yes, as we've kind of touched on initially, you've managed to build your product with over 4 million subscribers now every month using it. How did you get to reach so many people in I would say a very short space of time?
I think it begins with just product, building out a product that addresses major pain points and making sure that you seed it with initial users who are very passionate about the problem that you're solving. And then I think from there, it becomes much easier to both iterate on the product and then iterate on your messaging so that you're continuously driving additional users who are engaged. And then once you sort of get it to click, then it becomes much easier to just drive more and more users. And then before you know it, you cross 1 million. And really, I think, need to hone in on just a couple of marketing channels that are very effective as well. But at the end of the day, the way I like to think about it is, you've built a good product if you can sort of just leave the entire company alone for a year and come back. And if your user base has grown, it means that you really have viral traction behind you.
Yeah, absolutely. So how would you, from a business perspective, business owner perspective, how would you take the first steps to building that loyal following? You mentioned you found kind of like a pain point, and your product is able to help users. How do you connect you've got a great product, but how do you get first kind of sight in front of users that know they're going to benefit? What's kind of how do you start the momentum, I suppose, is really the question I'm asking, to get to the first million, say?
Yeah, I think it requires a lot of empathy with your users, so you sort of understand how your users think and where they are really. And so my co-founders and I started Quillbot when we were in school and in college. I was in my master's, and my co-founder was undergrad and eventually dropped out. And so we really understood how much of a pain point writing was for students, and also where students are. And so a lot of our initial traction actually came from the Reddit community. And we just posted our link in a handful of subreddits, and they just started taking off. And so we built a product that we knew solved a pain point. We knew where the user experience that pain point were. And then the last sort of, I would say, the piece of the puzzle was building a brand that really connects with users. And so we sort of have a brand that's more tailored towards students. It's on the lighter, cheekier side of it. We have a mascot that I think users really appreciate. And so that creates a lot of goodwill with users, and they feel more connected to your product and your company and want to see it succeed. And so not only are they continuously using your product day to day, but they're also advocating for your product to their friends and family.
Yeah. You know what I find amazing, and I get this mostly during this conversation with some outstanding individuals like you, is you created something that you personally can use, something that you truly understand what people need. And again, for those who are listening, this is a massive learning point. I wish somebody had pointed this out to me, earlier on in my career, that if you want to create something that serves people, look inside, how can this serve you, make your life better right where you are? And if it ticks all the boxes, the chances are there's 1,000, 1 million people out there who are suffering from the same thing that needs that. And of course, the rest comes into how do you market that. And you seem to have nailed it, which is incredible.
Yeah, I think that's funny because so my co-founders and I always joke that we're engineers and we always joke that we're poor writers, so we built a robot to write for us. Yeah.
Yeah. So did you kind of, before you got to the point, so say in your student days, before you got to the point where you really brought Quillbot into existence, was there always like a desire to run your own business, or is it kind of something that you almost stumbled upon? Or
I know one of my co-founders and I have historically been very entrepreneurial. This is the first project that really started to get a lot of traction. But back when I was in high school, middle school, I was building these utilities online that were getting tens of thousands of downloads. My co-founder was actually a game developer. He built Flash games and he got millions of plays on those games too. So I think a lot of those experiences, and they weren't really driven by money or like trying to really secure a job or anything like that. It was more just building stuff that people would use and find fun. And so I think we always had that bent. And then closer to when we were graduating college, I think it started to really sink into us that either we need to find a job or actually turn a business or turn something into a business. And I think both my co-founder and I wouldn't do well in corporate America, so we decided to just start our own business.
No, that's great. No, that makes a lot of sense. So would you say then, if your first couple of endeavors as well also gained a lot of traction, although it's a slightly different sort of direction that you went then, are there clues that you could share with our listeners that have kind of transferred from your experiences then and now what you're using in Quillbot to gain the momentum that you are? I know in the sense you've touched on that it's meeting a need, but how do you, because there's business owners out there that are frustrated that they have a great product or service that they offer, but there's not a connect with building a tribe to the level that they want, and I think that's what they're struggling with. So have you got any clues or hints, secrets that you could share with us that would kind of maybe help them progress things a bit faster?
I think there's a lot of intuition that goes into it that's been built up from experience, and a lot of that comes from seeing very subtle signs on if you're gaining traction. And, oftentimes your product or feature might be very close to clicking, but it could just take a small tweak here or there. And it's really recognizing those subtle clues. So seeing, I like to view it from the lens of a funnel. And so if you drive 1,000 users to your product, but they don't retain, but you get some feedback indicating that you're sort of close to solving the problem, but not quite there, then I think that gives you a lot of ammunition to go back and iterate on your product and really get your retention to click. Now, if you're driving 1,000 users to your product and they're all retaining, where you have really high retention, but you're not really, your user base isn't really increasing, then, the part of your funnel that you really need to look at is your top of funnel and making sure you're marketing properly. And sometimes I see, so for example, we really tried to do Facebook marketing and it has just been abysmal for us. Facebook marketing just does not work in our primary demographic or students. Very few students are on Facebook. And so sometimes you can't just use a normal playbook that you find online or find from talking to folks. You really need to tailor the playbook to your product and to your market, Ben. So sometimes you're driving users and they're not retaining, But that's because you're driving the wrong kind of users. And if you switch up your channel or switch up your top of funnel messaging, then you can get it to click. And so there's so many levers you can pull. And I think just running the experiments and building up that experience so you can have that intuition on what levers you should be pulling in order to get the entire product and user life cycle to really click. I think is my best advice. And there's no silver bullets here.
Oh, absolutely. If I could add on that, Trevor, if I may, I discovered that experience is one of the best teachers you can have. When you are doing this thing and you look at the feedback that you're getting and adjust accordingly, if you're flexible enough, you will survive. But if you sort of like adamant, this is my goal, this is where I want to be, and you are inflexible, you will probably be out of business. But if you're one of them that look at the feedback, you analyze, are we doing that? This is that the people asking. You are going to be in business for a long run. Is it easy? Of course, it's not easy. But you learn as part of the process. And I love exactly what Rohan is sharing with us here. That's a voice of experience right there.
Yeah. So I think just in gaining traction within your target market, it's learning the location of where they are. And if you find them but they're not converting to sales, it's maybe the language that you're using to try and connect your product or service with the target market. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Some nuggets there for our listeners, definitely. So let's briefly, we've touched on it a couple of times, but in a nutshell, what is Quillbot then? How can it help solve the issues of writers, students, business people of all ages?
So Quillbot's an AI writing platform, and the idea behind Quillbot is to leverage recent advances in AI and natural language processing to build tools that will augment and automate various writing tasks for users. And so we currently have two of our core products out, and one's a paraphraser, which can just rewrite a sentence for you in a particular style. And so think about it almost like a full sentence thesaurus. And then our second product is a summarizer. So you can just put an article in it and it'll generate a nice paragraph summary of the entire article. And we're building out a whole suite of products that sort of automate and augment various writing tasks. So we're building a product that'll help do a lot of the heavy lifting of your research for you. And then we're building out another product that will actually generate language for you. So you sort of give it these goalposts on these are the major bullet points I want to write about, and then like a starting sentence and an ending sentence, and it'll sort of start filling in the gaps for you and actually generating the language for you.
That's some clever stuff going on there, man.
Yeah, definitely. So could you, in a sense, then, could I take like maybe an interview that I've done, put it in there, the AI would kind of boil it down to a very short paragraph, kind of golden paragraph or so, that I could then use in some of the social media or promotional elements?
Yes, yeah, and the AI is not perfect, but so we have sort of a human in the loop system. So the human is working in conjunction with the AI to really produce the best language. And so the AI makes recommendations and the humans edit it and then ultimately pick language that they think best represents, what they're looking for. And actually all of those micro interactions with the platform, we use as training data to further educate the AI and create a feedback loop to constantly be improving the intelligence of the AI over time.
Okay. Yeah. It's kind of reassuring there that there's a human element still involved. I like that just from a personal perspective. I think that's a good place to be. Teamwork, isn't it, really? I think.
Yeah. I think writing is just a medium to communicate your personal viewpoint. And at the end of the day, there's no AI that has lived your experiences and can communicate your viewpoint. So we think at the end of the day, no matter how much AI is augmenting or automating some of these tasks, the human element is essential because out of all of the podcast hosts, there are listeners tune in to listen to your viewpoints and to your guests' viewpoints, and and I think that's very critical. So we sort of view ourselves as like a calculator for writing, if you will. So you still need a human to punch in the numbers.
Yeah.
Nice way to put it.
That's a really good way of putting it. Yeah. So would you? Are there kind of, what I'm thinking is scalability. So you're now at kind of 4 million or so subscribers. Well done, by the way. Congratulations on that. It's no small feat.
Yeah.
Obviously, it shows there's a product that works well. It's meeting a need. What was some of the challenges maybe from your first 1,000, 2,000 to get to the million, to the 4 million, and what sort of, or is it just easy? You just, your list just gets big, people just subscribe. Is it that straightforward?
I wouldn't call it easy, and sort of if you zoom out, you'll see a nice like exponential curve. But if you zoom in, that was not the situation. You're always worried about, is the next user going to be coming in? We're sort of cyclical in nature. Our users are students, so we have summer break and winter break heavily impacting our user numbers, and that's always distressing, seeing your user numbers going down, even though they'll reliably come back. So we encountered different problems at every sort of stage. My co-founder and I think have a natural marketing growth hacking mindset, and we're quite good at guerrilla marketing, and so out the gate, we went really hard on the marketing side, and then we didn't properly set up our analytics infrastructure on the product itself. And then 6 months, a year later, we realized, all right, we have a retention problem. Our users aren't actually retaining, and it's sort of shifting the mindset from marketing to growth. And understanding where your leaky bucket really is. And so we realized it was new user retention, and we really needed to double down on the quality. And the AI was still pretty early and premature. It wasn't quite at the proficiency that was helpful to a lot of users. It was helpful to some. And so really upping that proficiency started to improve our retention. And then we started to realize that, right, every time we drive 5 users, now we're retaining 3 of them instead of only 1 of them, and that really improves our exponential growth. And so it's been just sort of unlocking those insights over time. And then another really big sort of insight for us was organic search and optimizing the site to actually rank well for some search terms that have high intent for a product. When we realized that, that's when it started to really click, because all of our users that were going to the site were very qualified, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay, so many sleepless nights in the process of shifting from the marketing to the understanding the analytics and then addressing that. What would what would be, if somebody's in that position where they're reaching a lot of people initially, but they're not retaining the new users? Maybe it's not so much the AI learning thing within their service or the product that they've got. What would be something that maybe you've learned from that you would change, or some advice that you would give people that are in that position where it's the retention side of it that is the issue rather than the initial reach out? I suppose looking at the figures is one of the things you said about seeing what, if there's trends within seasons, then you realize why those dips happen. But is there any other lessons that you could share?
Yeah, a couple of nuggets of insight. One, talking to users is huge. I think the numbers tell a story, but you don't really understand what's going on without actually getting a long-form conversation with users beyond just a survey. So I think that was really important. Something else that took us too long to realize, but our initial users, we had a feedback form that came up, and our initial users always said, "Oh my God, this is great, and then they just always had nice things to say in our feedback form. But we still weren't retaining users, and we were kind of curious why. And then our AI got to a proficiency where actually people started complaining a lot, and people were like, "Oh, this is horrible! Like, why?" When they started complaining, I think it really clicked for us that we're actually close. So our early adopters loved the product in its current form, but then when it started to get good enough, people actually bothered to complain because they saw the potential there, and it wasn't quite meeting the potential. And so they actually started to complain because it was actually constructive criticism, and when users started to complain, that's when we really started to get the insights on the features and where to focus on in terms of the technology to get to a point where those users who were complaining would actually retain. So I think that was really important, is if you're only seeing positive signals in your user interactions, there's probably something wrong, especially if you're wrong.
Yeah, because you always need an opportunity to develop, don't you? And complaints for us really is a positive feedback. Give an element to grow and something to look forward to. And I was talking to one gentleman here. He said, "Oh, I love complaints because they give me a challenge to overcome." As entrepreneurs, we are always overcoming challenges, be it a problem that a customer is having, a problem that is disturbing your ideal client. You want to go and conquer that. And as an entrepreneur, just accepting constructive feedback or complaints. What a gift! What a gift! It makes you better and stronger.
Yeah,
you'll be able to serve people at the next level.
Yeah, I completely agree.
It's a good perspective that you have, because it takes effort to complain, doesn't it? And people, if they value something enough to complain, that you've got some level of buy-in, that they want to stay. Yeah. But you just need to kind of tweak something to make it better. Yeah, the people that are not interested, they don't put the effort into to complain or offer criticism. It can be constructive. But how did you get to that? Because I'm interested in the mindset and the kind of how you receive the first lot of negative signals. What got you to the point where you can now look at it as actually, yeah, this is useful. We can take this and build a roadmap, share that, and kind of communicate with the guys that we are in it for the long run. We are going to develop it. But rather than just quitting under the first bit of kind of criticism, what was it from a mindset perspective that kept you going to that you saw it was valuable?
I think entrepreneurship is full of enigmas, and so, there's this sort of dichotomy between failing quickly and persistence that is sort of has a weird place in tech startups in particular. And I think so I'm personally of the opinion that it sort of comes down to founder intuition and really believing in your core mission and believing in the solution that you're providing, and knowing that you can actually iterate to get there. And so sort of maximizing the amount of feedback channels that you have, so like analytics is one, et cetera. And so I think that those feedback channels can give you the granular insights that, all right, there's something here, but it quite hasn't clicked, versus I'm producing a solution to a problem that doesn't exist. And I think those being able to discern which path you're on is extremely important for founders. So and then I think on the persistence side, I think it's just the temperament of founders as well. I think persistence is sort of a common thread among pretty much every entrepreneur. And if you read books and listen to the talks from the great entrepreneurs, even the most successful companies have gone through very painful periods. And I think that's been true of us, as well as startups that have less traction and or earlier, or startups that are much later and have had far more traction than we have. And so I think, you just need to have that mindset.
If I just add on that, Trevor and Rohan, really is, for us as entrepreneurs, the word quit really has no place in our lives. We carry on, if the going gets hard, you take a temporary rest, but you don't quit. Whatever you do, you just keep going, because it is when you quit, that's when you really fail. But when you have any difficulties, those are moments of learning. And I know this will help somebody who is facing a difficult time right now and finding things slightly difficult. We've all been there. This is the natural path of the journey. And if you stick with it, it may take an extra day or an extra month or extra year. But here's the thing I've discovered, and many entrepreneurs here that we've had on the show have discovered, is if you stay in the path, you will get there. You will receive the reward. And believe me, when you begin to receive the rewards, you'll forget about the difficult time, because the rewards are sweeter than the painful moments. So just hang in there. It's what we do, it's what we believe, and it's what we live by. So no quitting among us. We just move forward one step at a time. We'll get there.
Yeah. There, that hindsight is very entertaining sometimes. I was talking to my co-founder the other day, and we were joking about an incident that happened 2 years ago where our servers shut down overnight and we couldn't get them back up. And we thought the world was on fire, in that moment. And we lost a bunch of users, and it was bad. But we were just laughing about it hysterically at this point. And I think getting to that point, where you can look back on something that damaging and just laugh, I think is I don't know. It's interesting how your lens shifts over that.
It is. And if you think about it, it's look at the old time. If you quit, where are you going to? Are you going to settle? Because once you're a quitter, you're a quitter. You see, one of my mentors, said, how you do anything is how you do everything. Yeah. If you train yourself to quit in one area, the chances are you're going to quit in another area. So if you are inclined to be a quitter along the journey, you might as well start working on, learning how to deal with that sense of, I want to quit, I want to give up, I want to stop what I'm doing. Before even you get into a business, whatever you're trying to pursue, look at your reasons why. The longer, the stronger the reason why, the more sort of power behind you have to drive you even when the going gets hard. And believe me, it gets hard sometimes. You're not alone, and this too will pass, and you will do very well at the end, and you become an inspiration to other people as well, people who look up to you later on and think, if he could do it, perhaps I can do that. And what a great gift you can give to humanity, to be an inspiration like Rohan. So I totally believe in what you are doing there, Rohan, and what you've done for yourselves there. True inspirational.
Absolutely. Yeah. So what's next, Rohan? What's your next project or the next step in world domination? Or right now we're heads down on building a full product here, and really turning this into an end-to-end solution for writing. And I don't think I'll personally or my co-founders really be satisfied until we accomplish that. And so it's a lot of building from here on out, and trying to avoid the shiny distractions is another thing that historically has definitely set us back, and that's just the last sort of insight I have, is that early on, especially when we bootstrapped pretty heavily until we got our venture funding, we bootstrapped for over 2 years, and it took me a while to realize that the most valuable resource that we have is not actually capital, it's time. And what you can do to sort of speed up your growth curve and decrease the amount of time it takes to accomplish a goal is really really important. And so that was a major mindset shift that we got over the last year.
Awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah. Minimize the distractions, keep the why you're doing it in the the forefront as to what motivates you going forward. Yeah, no, that's really good. Lots of good wisdom there. I appreciate you sharing all that you have. We're almost at the end of our time together, but is there any other sort of, I don't know, learning points or anything that you want to share with the audience before we wrap this up today that you think would help? We've got business owners from kind of at all levels, all stages, veterans, newbies, and everywhere in between. So,
no, just keep at it. And I think this is probably one of the best times to be building a company. The kind of resources that you have out there. We were 3 kids working on technology we had no business working on. And just the degree of open source resources out there and learn to get from YouTube, like really taught us a bunch of very technical skills that was essential to build our company. And I think this is true in a lot of different markets beyond just like AI. And so, I would really encourage everyone to not get scared if you're tackling a market where you think everyone else is an expert except for you. I think you're more competitive than you think you are.
That's good. No, that's really good. So how could people touch base with you? How can they find out about Quillbot?
You can reach out. You can go to our site, quillbot.com, and use our products for free. You can email at rohan@quillbot.com if you want. I'll answer my emails. And you can reach out to me on LinkedIn and any social media platform.
Okay, I like that. I answer most of my emails. That's a wise statement. Yes. No, that's brilliant. You okay? Did you have any other questions just before we close this out?
No, just thank you again for having me.
Okay,
awesome.
No, it's great.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure having you, Rohan, and loved your knowledge. And we want to wish you success in endeavor, and certainly would love to have you come back on the show and talk about your success, how you're marketing, inspire business owners in our audience here. The more we inspire, the more we get the word out there, the more things happen for us. So thanks again for being here on the show. Back to you, Trevor.
Absolutely. And thanks to all our listeners for tuning in to another episode. There's lots that you can take from that and progress how you're doing what you're doing, and a lot of learning from it. So check out Quillbot, definitely. Get in touch, make use of the product. It's a great thing to use. And we'll catch everybody on the next episode. So thanks very much. Thanks again, Rohan. Thanks, Yokai. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to Yukai Business Show. We will be back to bring you more episodes with success stories and advice straight from the experts. Want more? Check out www.yukaibusinessshow.com. Get your free trial of our virtual assistant service today. Just visit www.worldoutsourcingsolutions.com. Quote WOS18 or send us an email at support@worldoutsourcingsolutions.com.